There it is. Let's go. So I wasn't going to do something by myself anytime soon, but I had some plans this week. Uh, Movie discussion pocket dimension episode didn't happen, and a few other things with some people planned that didn't work out. So I just thought it's important because I've been off camera for a long time to get back on there. So just another sort of easy breezy, I guess, solo commentary, unless anybody wants to show up. So in the spirit of these, I like just sort of doing movies that just sort of are light and make me happy. So that's why we got Empire Records from 1995. Very definition of a cult classic, I guess you say, and that it flopped really hard in its day. And I don't know. I don't really know how it's perceived in general. It doesn't have good scores on things like Rotten Tomatoes for whatever the hell's that worth. But I know that like there's a lot of movies from the 80s, and I'm not talking about ones that are regarded as classics, although some of those too, that and I think maybe some of it is my age. I sort of dismiss them, and I'll tell people, I don't think they hold up. And although there are, of course, 80s movies that I like, but I mean, especially when we're talking about like contemporary 80s movies about like, teens and young people of the time, a lot of those, I don't really enjoy them, or they don't hold up, or I think they're overrated. And maybe there's a younger generation now, people in their teens, 20s, maybe even early 30s, that are dismissive of this movie, saying kind of the same thing. It's just some crap from the 90s. It's just more about a soundtrack than a story. But I don't know. I've always really enjoyed this movie. And of course, a lot of it does have to do with my age. I would have been like 12 when this movie came out. I remember it was in between going from elementary school in grade 6 to junior high. And especially remember the song, Till I Hear It From You, on the Gin Blossoms song that's on the soundtrack. Like, I can remember for a time, like, in like maybe the second half of grade 6, every single day that I had to get up and go to school, every time, and my dad would drive me to school, I would always hear that song on the radio every single day till I got really sick of it. But it is a cool song. Lots of good songs on this, as we'll get to. So I did have this recorded somewhere, but I found that it's streaming on Prime, at least for me. I know things are a little different if you're in the US or somewhere else. Prime has like a weird version that I haven't seen before. It's like a fan remix or something. So we'll see what that's about, if that's different. I mean, I know the movie pretty well. So if there's like extra scenes or something in here, I guess I would definitely notice them. So we're going to find out in a minute. It's about 91 minutes, something like that. Just in that sweet spot of an hour and a half, which also was important when I was picking movies, looking at some movies that I could do. And I was like, I don't want to do anything that's like over 2 hours, not by myself, although I definitely will be doing movies that long by myself. I'm sure I will be, but not tonight. So we're into December now. So yeah, I just felt like hadn't gotten much done in November. So there's a chill in the air. So now it's pajama pants time of year. Although, as usual, wildly fluctuating. It's supposed to get really warm and wet on Monday and Tuesday. That's what winter has become in Nova Scotia the last 2 years. More warm and wet, but messy. But so this is from director Alan Moyle, Canadian himself, who did some interesting Canadian movies, not just early in his career, but a couple years after this movie, he returned to the Canadian industry and did a pretty well-received movie called New Waterford Girl, which I'd recommend also because it's one of the very few movies out there that you can find that is set in Cape Breton Island, which is where I'm from. I live in Halifax, but I'm a Cape Bretoner, or Caper sometimes you might shorten it to. I'm from the island. And there aren't too many movies that are set there because it's a very, small place, small population. But it's a cool movie. And actually, just a couple years after that, in 2002, they did the movie that probably got a little bit more acclaim called, not them, somebody else, just called Marion Bridge, after the community there. I said the other one was New Waterford Girl, right? New Waterford Girl, and then Marion Bridge. And Marion Bridge, of course, is notable for being Elliot Page's first movie, back, of course, when he was Ellen Page. I haven't seen that in a few years, but my first serious girlfriend was from Marion Bridge. So I used to drive out there. I had just been learning to drive, and I used to late at night be driving on that windy highway. It was good practice for learning how to drive. So anyway, as far as this movie goes, I can't recall exactly when I first saw it. Not right away. I certainly didn't see it in theater. Wouldn't have been on my radar then. But it was definitely within the 90s, maybe just a couple years later. So the movie has an interesting cast. A lot of people that didn't really go on to do much. Launched the careers of a few people, of course. Liv Tyler, Renee Zellweger, Robin Tunney, however you say that. Those are all female characters. I don't really know so much about the male characters. I know people who are better at names and have seen more TV and stuff might recognize some of these guys. But it's also the only movie where I've ever been remotely attracted to Renee Zellweger. I don't know how old she is in this movie. She's supposed to be playing a teen, and she looks more or less like a teen, which she might be in her early 20s. I don't know. But it's the only movie where I've ever found her pretty. I don't really. She never did it for me in other movies, but that's just me. And of course, Liv Tyler always looks great. It's interesting all these people that we looked up to in the 90s. They're all in, particularly the musicians and stuff. They'd all be in their mid 50s now, down to late 40s. The Gen X or the generation, which is what my in-between generation very much looked up to. Sometimes we get called Generation Y. My generation is known for just being nothing, in-between generations. It's like Gen X, and then there's sort of a nothing generation, and then you get into the millennials. I've talked about this before. In some definitions of millennial, I qualify, but I don't think so. I think you got to be, I'd say 85 is probably the cutoff. I was born in 83, and even 85 seems kind of old for a millennial to me, but I don't know. It's also because millennials become sort of something of a bad word, right? Nobody wants to be associated with them. I don't know. I feel kind of bad. Nobody wants to be just judged just by their age group or generation. But yeah, the thing about my generation, which doesn't even necessarily have a name, although sometimes Y, is more like we don't have any distinguishing characteristics. We didn't go on to do anything. I'm a great example of that, I guess, myself. But anyway, let's start the movie. Like I said, it's on Prime for me. This weird fan remix version, whatever the hell it is on. I don't know where else it could be, but anyway, you can jump in. I'll give timestamps, I guess, as we go. So I'll do a countdown here. I'm sure once, as usual, I'll have to adjust the volume, but we'll do 3, 2, 1, and we're pushing play. All right. Yeah, already too loud. Warner Brothers, and it just goes straight in, guitar riff. One thing I have to say, though, is, in the last few years, there's been all this nostalgia, of course, for the video store. Video stores disappearing, of course, with streaming. And, of course, I was part of that, too. I loved going to the video store. It's a big part of my childhood and young adulthood, going to the video store, getting movies, and, of course, video games, too. Video games were more important to me at first than movies. And that's the main reason I would go. But, what about record stores? They're still around, but now it's almost seemed like record stores are just for, hipsters and old people. And old hipsters, of course. But, so I like that this movie centers on a record store. It's 1995, and we had no idea that within, 10 years, the record store would really start to decline. There's a record store I still go to. Well, there's two. There's one that's a record store, specifically vinyl, called Taz Records. It's definitely the place for hipsters. But there's also a chain that finally came, that had been in the rest of Canada, that hadn't been here for many years, once HMV and the others went under, called Sunrise Records. So there's a Sunrise Records over in the mall there, which has vinyl, of course, because everything has to. But, it's a record store. It's got CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays and all that. And, yeah, I'm just a little surprised there doesn't seem to be as much people talking about how great it was to go to record stores. I guess because technically you still sort of can, but it's not the same thing. Anybody of a certain age is going to remember what it was like to go into a record store and have it be really busy because the new album by so-and-so was out or whatever. And nowadays you can still go to the record store and buy, Rihanna or whoever's cool now. But, 90% of the audience are just streaming the music, if they're buying it at all. I don't even use stuff like Spotify, which, as far as I know, kind of screws artists over. They don't really make money that way. Roy Cochran, that's him on screen right now as Lucas. Now, I've never really talked to people about Lucas, but I figured Lucas probably might get on some people's nerves, the way he talks. He's kind of annoying, but it works for me. I like Lucas. I like how he talks. He's sort of philosophical, I guess, in that annoying way. So he has this epiphany. It's great now he gets to close down the record store, which is a big responsibility. But then he's going to come across, I'm not going to dictate the movie here, but just to set things up, Music Town Records, a franchise option agreement. So the whole thing is, this is a privately owned record store, Empire Records, but it looks like it's going to go under. In order to keep going, they'll have to become a franchise of, I guess, sort of equivalent to Blockbuster or something like that. So this is where Lucas gets the great idea that if he can come up with enough money, they won't have to do that. So he gets the idea of taking the payroll or whatever money it is here and try to gamble and get some The time to hesitate is through. See, it's already cool that he's quoting the Doors. So he's going to go to what's it's called? Atlantic City. He's going to go to Atlantic City. Yeah. Oh, Trump. Caesars. I'm not sure what sunk this movie at the box office at the time, because I feel like it's not just a movie that should appeal to you like it does now. Like, oh, it reminds me of being young and record stores in the 90s and all that. Like, I thought it had a lot going for it in its time. Certainly, it didn't have any star power in that the people that would become bigger stars, like a Liv Tyler, who's, kind of an in-between. She never, drew. She's a big name in a way, but she never, drove movies. No one's like, I'm going to go see that Liv Tyler movie. Renee Zellweger, kind of the same thing. So not exactly A-list, but I mean, Liv Tyler's interesting just by virtue of, being Steven Tyler's daughter. And for years, that wasn't known. She didn't know that until, I guess, not too long before this. It wasn't known for sure. And then she took the name, I guess. But I haven't seen her lately, but obviously she's aged really well. And she was a great choice for Arwen in the Lord of the Rings movies because she had that sort of quality, that agelessness that an elf would have. She was really good at that. So here he's got $9,104, and he's just going to put it all down. Is this roulette? I can't remember what this is. It's usually roulette. No, it's not roulette. It's craps? No. Whenever I go to the casino, and I haven't in many years, I would do blackjack. So this is going to be familiar because he's going to let it ride. I think he's already doubled. Yeah, so he's already got 18,000. He's already doubled his money. So obviously he's not going to. None of them are interested in his reasons. And I'll get you guys a drink. Now they're in. And Joe is the owner. Oh, he's out. So he went from $9,000 to $18,000 to nothing. I wonder how y'all are responsible for this. Yeah, so he has kind of a fourth wall breaking quality, but he's not exactly necessarily addressing us. He just sometimes states things. I like that too. So, I mean, obviously this movie is really cast-driven. If you don't like the cast, if you don't like the characters, it's not going to work for you. But I like them. I find them very likable. I mean, it's a movie. It's not real life. But, I would have been young enough to think, oh, it'd be cool to work in a record store because all these guys do is, play music and dance around. That's fun. But same thing, in the early 90s, I was a small child watching, Saved by the Bell. It's like, high school is going to be awesome. You're never in class. Oh, look at that Super Nintendo display. Ah, beautiful. CDs, vinyls, tapes. Tapes are really the lost thing now. Vinyl came back at least 15, 20 years ago. Jay and I covered, I was going to say stuff about Record Store. Okay, well, Jay and I did do High Fidelity, of course, for the movie discussion, Pocket Dimension. And that centers somewhat on a record store. It's not the main thing, but it does, it's based on a Nick Hornby novel. So, of course, it's going to have some music stuff. So here's Joe. You can tell he's one of those cool adults with his long hair, but he's serious, too, with his tie. So, but obviously he's a really good boss. And we do find out something that, Lucas had been some sort of, juvenile delinquent or something, and he credits Joe with being something of a mentor to him and helping turn his life around. We'll get to that. There's Mark, our weirdo. What's funny is you might think like he's like sort of like the stoner stereotype, but the movie never actually references him getting high or anything like that, which I kind of like because it's just more like, yeah, he's just a quirky, weird guy. Although I'm sure plenty of people watch the movies like, oh yeah, he's always smoking up. What's your name? You got one of those cardigans made popular by Kurt Cobain. I'm tempted to like name every song I hear, but I won't do that. I'll spare that for you. There'll be a couple that I can't resist, of course. But I do know this movie's gotten something of a cult following. Probably a lot of people, around my age. Because I do know that one thing, like I've noticed on Twitter, is this takes place, I think, on April 8th, which they dub Rex Manning Day. And that is something that is celebrated on Twitter. There's like, it's Rex Manning Day, and they'll use lots of GIFs and memes with Rex Manning. There you go, happy, yeah, that's the introduction of our two female characters. I mean, I get it. They are sort of, again, stereotypes. Liv Tyler's very pretty, but she's also sort of an overachiever, goody two-shoes that's always working so hard and has these big dreams and ambitions. Her friend is more laid back and kind of a slut. And they really go at her for that. Yeah, so that's ambitious. Also, she's the opposite. She's a virgin, and she's thinking, what better person for my first time than a sexy rock star, pop star, I guess, Rex Manning. That's her plan. Yeah, see, there's Joe Strummer. So, he's got some Clash posters. We know where he's coming from. I mean, it's good set design here. It really feels real. It really feels lived in, which is one of the qualities you want to get when you do things like that. Make it feel like it's an actual place with history that people are in and worked in. So, I mean, sometimes that gets overlooked in movies. We just take it for granted. But, I mean, somebody had to, like, plan this out and actually put the art up on the walls, put the flyers and the posters there, arrange the furniture. And I love that aesthetic. I love that 90s aesthetic that was just on so many shows and things. There was always sort of like a cool hangout. It was like a sort of a big open space, a couch here, a chair there, sort of a haphazardness to it. It was also sort of industrial in a way, in that you'd have like concrete floors and brick walls and things like that. I don't know. I've always liked that. I mean, I like most things in the 90s, predictably. Say his name, because I can't remember his name. It'll come. Yeah, so Lucas, of course, he did talk to Mark and what's his name, the other guy whose name I can't remember. But he purposely has not come into the store because of losing the money. But yeah. Oh, what's this Eminem thing? So he gets to pick the music, I guess, because I will say this: I'm not a morning person, so as much as I love music, like I don't want to be blasting music when I first come in the morning. I need to really ease into my day. So that was one thing I really don't miss when I was talking about the Gym Blossom things. Like every morning when I was a kid at home, like the thing that would wake me up is my dad turning on the radio downstairs in the kitchen. I always hated that he like blared the radio all morning. And until we're out the door, that damn radio was on with songs and news and stuff, and I hated it. By the time you're in the car, it's okay. I'm more awake now. I guess I can stand it. But yeah, I mean, I was never somebody that got up on my own. If I was awake, I'd be like, I'm going to stay here as long as I can until they get me out. So my mom or dad, they yell at me to get up. But that's not usually what woke me up. What woke me up was the goddamn radio. Oh, he's using his veto to stop him. So they're already having a difference of opinion on what is good music. What the hell is he doing? It's never really been explained why he takes the lighter to the CD. That doesn't do anything. I mean, it probably damages it. It certainly doesn't make it better. So where's Rex Manning Day is the big thing. They're going to have a big promotion where this idiot pop star is going to come and sign autograph. Of course, this is a video, which is really great. This really does capture some of that really cheesy 90s pop shit. He kind of is like Eric Carmen, except Eric Carmen was actually good. This is just like complete cheese. Say no, mon amour. It's got a roughly vest. Or a vest over like a roughly fluffy shirt. Oh, don't tell Mark not to sing. You might as well tell a bird not to fly, fish not to swim. And of course, the thing is, Mark wants to start a band. He's one of those guys that always talks about starting a band and just never actually does it. But maybe he will. Maybe he did after this movie. But he talks a lot about starting a band. Of course, it turns out that one of their friends is in a band. And it's kind of an unneeded thing. It's like, we need character arcs for everybody. I don't know. It seems weird that like Renee Zellweger's character, it's like, oh, she needs to get over her lack of confidence. She wants to be a singer in a band. She should just go for it. Like, who cares? But whatever. Like, I'm glad she sings at the end. I just don't think it should have been like a plot point that, oh, she has like, I don't know, a lack of confidence or doubts or something. Okay, so Lucas has to come in and I'll give Joe credit. He holds off a long time before laying hands on him. I mean, he is holding his shoulder, but I hate doing this by myself because I can never tell how well it's going. I mean, it looks fine on my end, but who the hell knows? Right, so he makes him sit on the couch and he's not allowed to get off the couch. Got it, Joe. I mean, he already knows that he lost $9,000. I don't think he actually remarked, I made it to 18, but then I tried to keep going, you know. Lucas is honest, in a way. If he made he just thought double it one more time, then bring it back. But he wasn't thinking about himself. He wouldn't have kept any for himself. Yeah, there we go. Another kid with Harvard ambitions. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, you need a lot more than just good marks to get into places like Harvard. You need to have a lot of extracurriculars going well. One kid I was with, he was a year behind me in my high school. I think he got accepted into Harvard because he was like a national debating champion. My sister was pretty high up too in debating. She did it in junior high and high school. I don't think I was mature enough of it. You know, if I'd done debating a few years later, I would have been good at it, but I didn't really have the patience for it at the time. I know I've been good at it. A little motorbike Vespa thing. So we know she's cool. It's like, okay, but where's the really cool girl? Here's the really cool girl, Deborah, as played by Robin Tunney, who would be in another super 90s movie. After this, she was one of the witches in The Craft, along with one of my big 90s crushes. No, you know who I mean. Sidney Prescott. Is that Naomi Campbell? You know who I mean. Yeah, so he's going to start giving like weird, vague answers, so no wonder Joe gets annoyed. But yes, I get maybe Deb's a little bit of a... Corey, there we go. Corey is Liv Tyler's character. Another thing, they're gluing quarters to the floor. Okay, AJ. So AJ is our cute indie grungy guy that has a crush on Corey. I guess my hair never evolved. I always liked that sort of wavy, long bangs look that people like him had in the 90s. And the problem with my hair is that it's too uniform. It's thick, but I don't get the spacing between it that I like. Speaking of hair, Deborah's about to make a rather extreme choice here. So, I mean, yeah, sure, you can say a lot of them are stereotypes. Here's Deborah. She's sort of dark and gothy. She's just fresh off a suicide attempt. And now she's saying goodbye to the hair. It's interesting because there are certain people, more male, of course, than female, but that choose to like have really short hair or either be like completely bald, like it's a choice, like they're always shaving their head and stuff. But whenever you see it done in movies, it's always because the person is like experiencing like some extreme emotional trauma. You know, a similar thing happens in the Royal Tannenbaums, also covered by Jay and I in Movie Discussion Pocket Dimension, where Luke Wilson's character, the tennis pro, feels like his life is falling apart and he's in love with his adopted sister and blah, blah, blah. And when he shows up, he's got long hair and a beard and everything. But then he cuts the hair so short that he's almost bald and shaves the beard. And, you know, it's all proof that he's like not okay. It's interesting. Because really, I kind of think the other way around in some ways. You know, you got long hair and a beard. Usually it means you don't care. Original Game Boy on the couch. And that's true. Not too many choices back then. The Game Boy Color is still a couple years away, I think. Sure, you got the Game Gear, and that has color, but man, it was a monster for eating batteries. Robin Tunney looks good, though. She looks really good with the shaved head. It's a real gamble. Because I know if I did it, I would just look really unhealthy. But not entirely perfect. Right? So it'll be a callback. That'll be like a running thing. AJ is showing that he's caring because he sees the bandages on her wrists. And she answers being very sarcastic, and I decided I'd rather kill myself than read Rick's ranting. Well, that's an acceptable answer. But she's perfect. Lucas doesn't like conflict. He's not Chinese, he's Japanese. I hate it when they make mistakes like that because I wonder if they're like written into the movie or what. So like now she's like the Chinese guy from Karate Kid. I mean, do you remember Karate Kid? Karate, Japan? I mean, that's not a nerd thing. That's just facts. So I wonder, like, is it just a mistake or do they purposely write the mistake in because AJ's an idiot who can't remember things? I don't know. But that's an interesting line that he says because he says, yesterday you were normal. So it seems to suggest that, like, Lucas wasn't always like this. And when he had that sort of epiphany about the money, that's when he's become so much more zen and philosophical and all that stuff. So they're suggesting that he's actually changed kind of abruptly. And of course, these two don't get along at all. Yeah. As far as I can tell, they're the only ones in the store that genuinely don't like each other. Oh, we got customers. And we're doing some moshing. In the 90s, everything just can't. It's funny now because we talk about like the world we live in with all this internet stuff. But I mean, in the 90s was just everything was so coming at you so fast in your face. I mean, nowadays we have more screens and stuff, and yet it still doesn't feel as, I don't know. I mean, probably because the 90s was more obnoxious, especially, you know, if you're my age. You grew up on a diet of extreme. With stuff like this and skateboarding, and they put it in all the advertising. You know, you're getting a fruit snack for Gushers, and it's all like rock music and skateboarding on a half pipe. Suddenly Tony the Tiger's doing like extreme sports. And, okay, so she's Gina. So that Gina is Gina's Blondie there. Oh, and here's the other really. So here's yeah. So here's the real music snob of the group. I don't think he's an employee. I think he's just friends with Mark. But there he made a tape for him for educational purposes. I mean, we all knew somebody like that, right? I sure as hell did. And I mean, I was one of those people that music was super important to me and stuff, but I didn't feel confident in my likes. I didn't really like talking about it. I was afraid I'd be judged, which is kind of silly, but it's something you feel probably when you're in your teens, at least earlier teens like I was. I didn't really like talking about the music I liked with other people that much because I was afraid they'd just dismiss. But anyway, guys like him, yeah, they'd be like, "This is for you. I made you a mixtape for your musical education, man." Lucas is really getting mileage out of that "not entirely" line. Yes, it is, Jamie. I was just remarking on that. It's like one of the things that's endured about this movie. And it's one of the things that made me realize that while it was a flop in its day, it does have an audience and it does have people that liked it. Because, you would see that on Twitter. I think April 8th is the day. Maybe they shouldn't joke about that, Gina. But yeah, I mean, there was a period. I mean, this always happens too with movies that don't do well. Is that it takes at least a decade or so for the people who didn't originally appreciate it, maybe to start appreciating it. So I can remember there was like a dead time in the early 2000s where I liked this movie a lot, but I didn't really seem to know anybody or that liked it too or talk about it or anything. I don't know. Sometimes these things, they take a while. But I still want to make the argument that this movie's appeal goes, well, of course, a lot of it is nostalgia for people of a certain age like myself. I still think in its day, it was a good movie. Maybe not a great movie or anything like that, but I mean, it's got a pretty lame score on Rotten Tomatoes. You read online reviews, they're not good. I don't know. I think the movie has a lot of heart and charm. And it's not just because it has a cool 90s soundtrack. Now they're going to talk about Damn the Man. Damn the Man. Oh, that youthful enthusiasm. Yeah. Not too many people did, though, unfortunately, see it in the theater, Jamie. Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit young when this movie came out, so it's not like something that would have been on my radar when it first came out, although it was very quickly after that. We all have that time in our lives where we go from like being little kids who don't really care. Like maybe we listen to, I mean, I was anyway. Like I grew up, I liked the oldies that my parents played, especially the Beach Boys. I was a huge Beach Boys fan. Then there was that weird in between period where I was like 10 and kids started listening to like stuff at school and talking about it. And I didn't like it at the time. I remember listening to like Dookie by Green Day. Maybe I was just too young. I didn't like it. And I felt kind of weird. So it's like, what am I? I don't seem to like any of the music that the people, but then in a couple years it kicks in and suddenly you just kind of love almost not everything, but first album I bought was 16 Stone by Bush, which was a 94 release, but I probably got it sometime in 96. I was listening to this just the other night. Video Killed the Radio Star. So that's an 80s song, of course. This was the first video ever played on MTV in their first broadcast in 1981, which is very fitting, of course. The Buggles. I wasn't listening to this version. I was listening to Ben Folds 5 cover of it. It's a piano-driven song, so it works pretty well. All right, so montage here, setting up stuff for Rex Manning's appearance. Yeah, they're not all moms. There's some younger girls there. So if nothing else, this movie gets remembered. It's funny, they made a joke about, I already forgot her name. What's her name? Skirt being short. But I mean, look at Liv Tyler's. I mean, Liv Tyler's gone on to do many things, but this is still sort of how I picture Liv Tyler. I picture her as Arwen in Lord of the Rings, and I picture her as Corey wearing that skirt. shirt. What she was wearing to. Yes, I know. So, I mean, like Lucas is supposed to be 21. So, I mean, I don't know how much somebody who was like in their early 20s related to this, because I don't know. Because I know when you're like 12, 13, it's the people like are a few years older than you that you really look up to. When you're in junior high, you think the kids in high school are cool and things like that. Oh yes, I know the actress's name, Renee Zellweger. I was trying to remember the characters' names as they were coming, and they already said her name, and I already forgot it. There's Mark. There's Lucas. AJ's our long-haired guy. And there's Mark blabbing about wanting to. Liv Tyler is Corey. When there's Warren, I guess it's not really his name, but our shoplifter. What's interesting is there's also a shoplifting scene in the other record store movie I mentioned, High Fidelity. I've never seen anybody shoplifting in a record store, but obviously it happened. I remember a few of them. When you get the CDs, they were attached to like big plastic things. I'm sure people would remember that. The record store I go to now doesn't have that. But I remember back in the day, places like maybe Music World or Sam the Record Man, these were places in Canada. If you had a CD, it was like in a big plastic case with a thing down on it. Like if you were buying it, you had to get them to take it off it. So, because I mean, I get it. CDs are pretty easy to walk away with, as Warren is demonstrating here, putting them in his coat. Never trust anybody in a big coat. That's a big coat you're wearing. There we go. Like, Lucas likes to thrill the chase. He lets him leave the store. Yeah, so this is kind of a fun event for them, too. I'll give Lucas credit, though. He's kind of omnipresent here. Wherever Warren goes, there he is. Running back into the stores, yeah. Everything I say, they're commenting. It isn't customary to leave the scene. Yeah. So there, you guys have some common ground. That's definitely not something that I remember from record stores, though. Like having like a PA that they would make announcements over. Oh, it's always so satisfying seeing people get doored in movies. It makes me want to just do it to some random person. Of course, I'm not a psychopath, so I wouldn't, but it is very satisfying. There's Rex. Oh, right, I forgot about his little short-haired manager here. So, see, I do forget some things. It's Middle America, yo. Rex. He's too damn big for this two-bit operation. Yeah, he's a judo. Right, so he gives his name as Warren Beatty, and then they just basically treat him as Warren. I don't know if it's because the reference went over their head, or I don't know if it's a joke, or they're just gonna... and this too, I guess this was a policy of, oh, geez. Somebody's into the Music Town uniforms. I do have to give Joe some credit here. It's like he's surrounded by morons. Like they don't seem to Okay, her name is Gina. There we go. Gina. I don't remember. Gina, Deborah, Courtney. Not Courtney. Corey. AJ. Mark. Lucas. Is anybody minding the store? They seem to all be in the back room. So while they're bringing this one shoplifter to justice, like dozens more are running off with their stuff. The beret is a bit much, even for a manager. We all love the new album. Liv Tyler's eyes are dazzling. That's probably another reason why she made such a good elf. You know, if you watch Lord of the Rings, there's two people. At the time, people thought maybe they were digitally enhanced, but they aren't. And I've talked about it before. Is that Elijah Wood has just dazzling blue eyes. Like my eyes are blue, but not blue like his eyes. His eyes are like, I don't know, but they're incredible. And I think in the wake of Lord of the Rings, some people thought like when they have close-ups of his face and the eyes, they thought, oh, they digitally enhanced them. They did not. His eyes are like that in every movie. I'm jealous. But Liv Tyler's kind of got them too. Not quite as striking, but definitely. Of course, Liv Tyler, she has a lot of other assets besides her eyes. So. Obvious gay guy. Hey, it's 1995. What do you want? Things are changing. What year did Ellen come out? 96? Might have been actually a couple. Might have even been later than that. I don't know. Oh, all the MILFs, they love him. Oh, shouldn't have said that. Oh, someone younger and cooler. We're at 35 minutes and 15 seconds, if anyone is late to the party. Again, this is some sort of version that I haven't heard of that's on Prime right now that says it's like a fan remix. So far, everything seems exactly the same. So, I don't know. I don't know if it has added stuff or not. Warren, you cannot have the magnet if you're going to rub the magnet on your face. See, that's kind of funny. Because people didn't say thirsty. They didn't mean it that way back then, but it kind of works now. Your favorite singer is Axl. Ugh. I thought you were cool, Mark, but if your favorite singer is Axl, we got a problem. Oh, I love how animated Warren gets here. Even Izzy Slash and Axl Rose. When they call, you put them all on hold. It's a Weezer reference. That song is from Suzanne, which was on the Mallrats soundtrack. It plays just at the end credit start. He's an artist. Yeah, so there is some stuff that's kind of annoying about these kids. It's like AJ is an artist, but he's got like sort of the same problem as Gina. Like he's an artist, but he doesn't really feel fully confident in going for it. Rap, Edel, Whiskey Houston. Hey, they're just saying he's got eclectic taste. Nothing wrong with that. Derisive laugh. That wasn't me reading the captions either. That was just my own. Dance Party USA is one of his songs. That's interesting. So her name is Tung. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that line. It is, I mean, yes, it's a gay joke, but it's not like, I think, a totally tasteless gay joke. It's an easy gay joke. I mean, I get it's kind of lazy, right? It's like, oh, young male fans, well, they're probably gay. But I mean, I don't, because when you talk sometimes about some of these movies not aging well because of lines like that, like, I don't think that's bad at all. It's not, it's not like some of the shit they were saying in the 80s. It'd be enough to make me quit the music business. All right, so this guy's name is Burko. So here's their little punk rock friend, who it's weird. Is he Deb's boyfriend? He's asking about Deb, and he seems to be punching in like he works here, but you never see him work here. So I've never really figured out his thing. But anyway, he's in a band, and his band will perform at the end, and Gino will perform with them, overcoming stage fright or whatever. I like how she's surprised that a bunch of teenage males aren't impressed by Rex Manning. She just like quit? Well, I mean, she wasn't your employee. Shouldn't she be telling Rex she quits? Like, and we see Joe in his youth probably had played in some bands. He's got some drums here, so now that he's frustrated, he's gonna bang something out. Nice. I mean, Warren doesn't like these guys, but he can't resist. I mean, you add real drums into the mix. Like, as much as a snot Warren is here, he actually is digging it that they're jumping around, and wait till he just can't contain himself. Power of music, right? It still seems too loud, doesn't it? No. You want blood? You got it. People rocking out in the listening booths. I don't remember listening booths. I mean, I remember that there were places you could go and put the headphones on and listen to stuff, but I don't remember booths. Wow, we got some heavy petting going on there. But I don't remember being in any record stores that actually like had booths. It says one person per booth, please. But people are breaking. What is she listening to and crying? I can't make that out. I like people that are into it though, because I mean, like I'm a comic book guy, and I have a comic store that I go to, and I love the store, and I've been going there since about 2003, including its move. But it's not the only comic store in the city. And I go to another one mainly for back issues. Like the new stuff I get my count is the one downtown. But there's this other one. And I mean, I've, of course, had conversations in both stores with employees about comics. How could you not? But it seems like the other one, the one that's not my main one, they almost always have something to say about what you're buying, which I kind of appreciate in a way. Like sometimes like I'll be buying like a massive thing. I'll have like $150, $200 worth of comics. Not kidding. And they'll just ring it up, and that'll be that. Like, I almost want them to say something about it. But, I mean, I get it, and everybody's going to, I mean, it's a job, and you got to get through it. I don't need people to approve of my taste or anything like that, but I just mean, I do like how in this record store thing, like, they're really into the music, and it seems like they seem to have an opinion on everything. And, again, that's the other thing about record stores, and it really gets driven home in something like High Fidelity. Is like, the people who work there are, like, musical snobs, because, like, Jack Black and the other guy, they spend most of their time like openly mocking the customers for their musical tastes, which is, you know, just a shitty thing to do. And it's interesting how comic stores have changed ever since comics became, you know, a big mainstream thing within the last 10 years or so, maybe even a little more than that. But I mean, I was into comics my whole life. I didn't start seriously collecting until I was 19, but I read them my whole life. And I can tell you in the 90s, and obviously in the preceding decades, there was nothing cool about comics. There was nothing hip about comics. And I think you probably, because it was hip in that it was like, you know, that kind of thing, right? It was hip because it was underground more. So you would get used to employees there being sort of snarky in the same way and aloof and snobbish the same way that record store ones. And that's really where comic book guy comes from on The Simpsons. You know, Matt Groening would have people come up to him and say, man, comic book guy, like that is my guy. And he's like, that's the point. That's like every comic book guy. And of course, that's not what comic book stores are really like anymore. I'm sure you can still find some with some older owners that haven't changed with the times. But I mean, they even made a Simpsons episode about that some years ago. By the way, Jack Black was in it. Jack Black played this guy who opened a new comic book store, and it demonstrated the difference in the shift, the cultural shift between how comics had been perceived, because his store was now like a cool, hip, fun place, and he didn't lord over everybody with his knowledge or be snobby. He was just positive and cool and everything like that. And comic book guys losing business to him, and he's just like, you can't trust this man. He has a girlfriend, for God's sakes, So that's the other thing too. People that read comics, they weren't gonna have girlfriends or anything. All right, so AJ is up on the roof. Once again, being a real cliche here, he's psyching himself up to try to express his feelings for Corey. I mean, I get it. If you aim as high as her, it's going to hurt to strike out. Like, that's kind of an ugly sweater, but you don't notice because it's Liv Tyler. Of course, this works out just fine. She has lots of feelings for him too, but they're both, they can't. I mean, I get it. And that's not even just youth. That applies even when you're older sometimes. You can't say what you want to. Don't be too creepy here, Mark. The girl's really into the music. We don't know what she's listening to, but it moves her. That sound is the heat, which is great, actually, because the heat breaks here all the time. So hearing that lets me know it's fucking working, which is great. Oh, we got other people that are listening to some. They'll hear the delivery person is dancing around a bit. Where are her shoes? Did she take off her shoes? So many questions. Oh, he just kissed her foot. The fact that he just danced away and smiled is the only thing that saved him from a lawsuit or jail time. Speaking of jail time, the Fuzz are here to haul away Warren. Warren, of course, has overheard about him losing the $9,000. So Warren, you are banned. I think I interrupted myself when I was talking about shoplifting policy. As I say, it was that a thing too, because when they originally brought him in, they stood Lucas up and took out a Polaroid to take a picture of him so they could put it on the wall to remember that he's banned from the store. I've never really seen that either, or if I have, I don't remember. I didn't notice something. No sex in the booth. No sex in the champagne room. Wow, now that's a weird pull. It's Chris Rock. It's Chris Rock doing a weird parody of that Baz Luhrmann thing about sunscreen. People of a certain age have no fucking idea what I'm talking about. It's late 90s. I mean, people still know Chris Rock at least. Deb. Let me guess, your mother doesn't like you. Oh, she doesn't know where. Oh, that's bad. She doesn't know where mom is. Joe's like, oh, I got nothing. This is out of my depth. She has interesting rings. All right, so back to the plot. Yeah, so I guess Burko is working. They're saying Burko, again, he's our indie rock kid. He's going to be taking Rex's lunch. And of course, she's going to make her move here that she has to take the lunch to Rex, she being Corey. So she's going to use her great skill here by screaming. Poor Joe. He doesn't need this shit. He's already having a hell of a day. And I mean, I get this again. This is sort of like youthful innocence, romanticism, sort of meeting like reality. And you want to think, oh, she can't be this naive. But I mean, I get it. Young girls and young boys can be. I certainly had a. I mean, I think I was cynical even for my age, but that didn't mean I didn't want to believe in things. So she has this great romantic idea that she's going to seduce Rex, and she'll lose her virginity to him. And even though she knows like it's not going to be a relationship, she'll still think that it's going to be somehow really emotionally rewarding and special. And I mean, saying it out loud, that sounds insane. And you give Rex credit because I mean, he does a pretty good job of like avoiding it for a while. And again, I don't want to put this too far. I'm giving Rex credit. I'm just saying they're showing that the guy's a jerk, but they do draw a line that, you know, she's here throwing himself at him and he's not even thinking anything. You know, he's not perving on the young, beautiful girl that brought him his lunch. He's like, all right, thank you for my lunch. Goodbye. And she just stays around. So, I mean, Rex is a jerk and his music sucks, but they're like, you know, he's not some sort of like sexual predator. She's like, I'm not a baby anymore. Oh, God, off goes red bra. See, once again, she's even taking off her shirt, and he just says, well, you know, you're a sweet girl. So, he's... The movie's worth it just for that shot, isn't it? So he says, are you sure? You know, he's getting consent and all that. So, I mean, again, I guess if he's truly a great guy... And what changes here? He just goes rock and roll. And, like, what changes here? Is it because he leads by starting to take his pants off? And, like, suddenly she thinks he's disgusting and leaves? It's weird. He just goes rock and roll, okay, and he starts to, you know, with his belt. Is it because he thought maybe we'll get straight to, like, oral sex, whatever, like, that's what bothered her? Like, she thought there would be passionate kissing first? I don't know. It's not exactly well explained. But now, of course, she's humiliated and shattered and all that, and I get that. But I'm not sure why that moment changed it. Like, he didn't even touch her. So AJ, of course, has picked the absolute worst time to come up and confess his feelings. That's another thing I fantasize about, working in a place where I can just go up to the roof all the time. A nice roof to hang out on. You hate my skirt? You know, it's good that I hate the skirt because, well, yeah, it's not really good timing, AJ. And that's kind of stupid. I can love her in that skirt, then this really must be it. Oh yeah, you're really showing depth of your feelings there. You're not, if I can somehow get past the skirt that I don't like, that this stunning, beautiful young woman is wearing, then it must be real. Yeah, there's nothing superficial about that, AJ. I mean, that's it. You must really be in love with her if you can love her even in a skirt that you find, I guess, unattractive. Oh, she actually tells him that she threw herself at Rex Manning. And she says, I made a total fool of myself. But again, it's not like he rejected her. Like, he did eventually say, okay, we'll do this. And then I don't know if it's just reality comes crashing down. She's realizing what's happening. I don't know. I'll give the movie credit because it's an interesting thing that Gina does wind up having sex with him. I don't think it's a curve that you expected the movie to take. I kind of didn't. And how the characters react to it is interesting too. Like, I'm not sure what kind of point is being made. You know, so the angry music here. Got plenty of that in the 90s. So she's now told Gina, and Gina's just like, oh, forget him. Oh, now you're going to lash out at her and call her a slut. Oh, the red bra was hers. That's right. Turbo slut, nice. Again, I don't believe in slut shaming. I got no problem with sluts. But I also don't think it's necessarily wrong, like, if someone is a slut, to say, I don't know. I mean, obviously there's a right time and place for these things, and it depends on your relationship. I'm not saying, hey, you're a slut, But I'm just saying they're good friends. And can't she call it as she sees it if she knows her friend is promiscuous? Because she'd never been judgmental, I guess, about it up to this point, but I don't know, it's complicated. I get it. He's the only character I don't like. I like all the other characters. I don't like him. Eddie. Eddie's our music snob, the one that's educating Mark with the long hair. I find Eddie annoying. The others, he calls a bra a thingy. Nice. I mean, I didn't have a lot of experience with girls in my teens either, but I knew what a bra was. So now I guess Gina is angry at basically being called a slut by her friend. So her response to that is to deliberately seduce Rex Manning where she failed. Although, again, she didn't fail. Rex was going to go along with it, so I don't know. I don't think of it as the holidays either. I mean, people are too nuts over Christmas because, I like Christmas, and I get it. It's a big thing, and it's probably a good idea to start shopping, stuff like that, but I don't know. I don't think of this as the Christmas season. It's too fucking early. I'll be ready for Christmas, but it doesn't feel like the holiday season. I mean, and again, we're being inclusive too, because I know Kwanzaa. No, Hanukkah was the other day, so I get it from that thing. But I don't know. No holidays for me for a little while. But I don't know. It sucks because we don't get snow like we used to. I really need snow. I was in the public gardens last night, which is interesting because it's never been open at night before the whole time I've lived here. But it's because they're setting up a light display there. And it was pretty, but it didn't look right. And like the rain, you need snow. Like all those lights just don't look right to me against like green, wet. AJ, that's not very supportive. I've had girls back then tell me, they didn't want to mess up our friendship, which is pretty funny because we weren't really friends. We were more like acquaintances. So it's not really yeah, we'll see. I have no rejection of Santa. I like Santa very much. Just saying, I don't need to think about him this early. Oh, look at all these cool buttons that Deb made for everybody. They'll say something about their personalities, I guess. Big buttons. I mean, they were a thing. I used to have them on like my backpacks. So this is a really weird moment too. So they turn on. So he's trying to cheer Deb up because everybody is, and he's trying to cheer himself up too because of his just being rejected. So they're going to start sort of ironically dancing to the big Rex Manning song, but she gets really into it. It's kind of weird. So he takes her out. It's like, okay, we're having fun. We're friends, and we're dancing. Meanwhile, of course, Gina's getting it on against the copier. That's him. But watch this. Watch how into it Deb gets with AJ here. I mean, I get it. AJ's a good-looking guy. Maybe he needed this for his self-esteem. There, she takes off his shirt unprompted, and they get really close and intimate. It's weird, isn't it? Mark's dancing with random girl in the store. This is the tipping point for Joe. Look, now he's holding her. Like, are they going to just do it out there on the floor? Joe has finally had it. I give Joe credit. He should have had this, like, blow up, like, hours ago. I give him credit for holding out this long. And maybe that's why, too. Maybe it's because the record stores I went to, they were all chains. Maybe if I had back in Sydney some cool, like, independent record stores, they would have had cool, youthful staffs that would dance. But they were just music stores. They were Sam the Record Man, Music World. There was at least one other one. And then HMV never came to Sydney, but I would go to the HMV up here. There were a couple. They were still here when I moved here, but they're long gone now. Oh, Superb. I like how Superb is the tip breaking point for Joe. Say it again, Lucas. And again, I give the movie credit for going this far. He actually is going to beat him up a little. We don't see it. The door is closed, but he's going to hit him some. You can hear it. He is physically assaulting one of his employees. And I know you could say Lucas had it come. And it was only a little bit. But still, I mean, one punch is enough to be charged with assault, right? And we get it. Lucas would never press charges against Joe. He's like a father figure to him. It was short. It wasn't brutal. He says, you deserve that. You know it, right? But it's part of their family atmosphere. Again, hitting people isn't right within a family either, right? But, you know. And, of course, here's the final straw. Gina getting it on with their special guest. They know where she is. They just want to get out, and I can't blame them. Eddie's brought pizza. Nobody even wants any. Why are you changing your shirt, Eddie? What the fuck is going on here? He just changed shirts for no reason. That was odd. You probably can let her go home, right? I mean, you've got all these employees, and none of them are actually doing anything. Who manages the store when they have these timeouts? I guess this should really be awkward. No applause. Awkward and uncomfortable. So AJ, again, why does AJ attack him? Is he really that mad that he had sex with Gina of Gina's own choice? Or does he just have his own aggression because of what he's gone through, like the rejection and everything, and he just has to hit somebody? There's where he reveals himself to be the real jerk, though. Like when they hold him back, he hits him defenseless, and that's a jackass thing to do. So they all let him know how much his music sucks. Exeunt, Rex Manning. Exit, pursued by bear. Look that one up. Classic reference. That's a good question. He's like, she said, am I fired? Have I fired anybody today? Why would I start with you? Oh, ouch. Again, I don't feel like there's any real resolution here. She gets mad at her. She's like, is this what you're going to do? Just be a slut? She's like, yeah, well, at least I don't hide who I am. And now she's... Again, this reminds me of like Saved by the Bell thing, the whole drug episode with Jesse, our little overachiever, you know, taking the speed pills, whatever like that. Oh, same thing here. Perfect Corey is taking pills to maximize her performance. I don't know. Corey seemed pretty healthy until you started screaming at her about it. Although, I mean, you could say, well, Corey clearly isn't emotionally healthy because she just did that thing with Rex. But that's what you do every day, and you did it to completion. So, once again, I feel bad for Joe because this is way out of his depth. Two teenage girls screaming at each other. Oh, there. So there's some of the heart of it. It's always about her. So you get the feeling that maybe Gina feels like... I don't know. I love that. So maybe that's some of it. Oh, yeah, she's going to tear through the store. So maybe you could start by firing her. She's gone on a rampage. I'll give them credit. Like, usually in a lot of these scenes, if, like, one girl's freaking out, like, the move isn't for the other girl to be like, I'll freak out even more. Yes, I like River's Edge. I don't know if I'd say I'm a fan of it, but I mean, I've seen it and I liked it. Actually, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to double check here because my memory is failing me. But I think River's Edge is one of the first movies that Jay and I did on our show, unless I'm misremembering. So let me just double check that. But I think if we go back way back to the earliest days, movie discussion pocket dimension, which is just short of 5 years ago, because we started in December. Yeah, see, I see. I think we did. I'm just gonna double check here. Don't worry, I've got a record of everything we've covered. Because I kind of think that we did it. Yep. River's Edge is the third one we ever did. So you'd have to go back quite a while. It was before we even had a separate channel for it, although it's on the channel now. But the first 6 or 7 that we did we didn't have a channel yet, and we did it on Jay's channel. So yeah, we did do River's Edge a long time ago, almost 5 years ago. So I can't remember. Here's the whole Guar thing. Guar isn't particularly 90s, but it is cool. You know how many people have been in Guar? Like 500. Like Guar has had like, you hear about bands with like rotating lineups where like, the members are always changing. I mean, Guar is right at the head of that. Like, which is weird when you think about it, because when you have lots of bands, it's like, okay, they had a different drummer and they had different bassists. It's like, there's people that are good musicians. And that's why if a band needs more members, it's not that hard to find more members. Well, at least as far as being competent. I mean, you'll often hear the argument, people saying like the band wasn't as good when so-and-so left because of what they brought. But the difference is, well, there's no shortage of competent musicians to join rock bands if they need it. Guar, of course, is a unique kind of rock band, right? You can't just be somebody's like, I'm a really good guitarist, so I'm going to try out for Guar. I mean, you know what you're getting into if you're joining Guar, like those costumes and everything like that. So that astounds me that Guar has had such a membership. I don't know if it's 500, but it's a lot. Like in the dozens of people have been part of the lineup of Guar. It's crazy. So that's just a little big-lipped alligator moment there where I don't know if he's having like, if the brownies are supposed to be like pop brownies. He thinks the TV's talking to him. I don't know. So Little Miss Beret is back. But yeah, we did do River's Edge. It's the third one we ever did. And I knew it was one Jay wanted to do because before that I hadn't seen it. I'd heard of it, but I hadn't seen it. And it was one that Jay thought would be good to do. And so we did it. And I have seen it since, but not recently, maybe about 3 years ago. Oh, nobody wants to listen to you at a time like now, Eddie. I'll give AJ credit for his restraint here. Yeah, I like all the characters except Eddie. Eddie pisses me off. What's with all the open paint cans? Oh, right. Now, it's amazing for a short movie how many issues and character arcs they jump around onto. So now they're going to do a whole thing. Now that Corey's had her big meltdown, at the same time Gina had her meltdown. Gina left. Now Corey's calm, and she's going to make a fake funeral for Deb so they can address, Deb's suicidal tendencies, if I can turn a phrase. So yeah, now they're going to do their fake funeral. And I mean, again, they have all this time to take out of work, set all this up, dead people, so they can all say what they feel about her dying. I don't really like Burko much either, but he's not on much. AJ, you could have rebounded with her nicely. Despite the fact that she's suicidal, she still seems less complicated than Corey. I think I kind of would have said. Right, so this is a funny bit. So they're all in there doing the thing, and only Mark is reading the store. So they go out to Mark, and they show that Mark is overwhelmed, that there's too many customers, and he's getting calls. But the funny thing about that is, like, before this moment, we've seen lots of times where everybody was in the back, and nobody was working. So, So yeah, here he is calling up for help, saying he's overwhelmed. Doesn't seem to sync up with what was happening earlier, which is, we can all go in the back whenever we want and just leave the store unattended. Oh, now she's saying, I've just totally half-assed this funeral. I just care about my friendship with Gina. And of course, Gina's been working in the shadows and she'll come out. And she's saying what she admires about Gina, blah, blah. I get they're packing a lot into a short movie, right? There's all these different dynamics and relationships and things and problems that people are having, and we're addressing them all. But I don't know. It's not that bad. It's not as messy as it sounds, really. Yeah, see? Oh, here's Gina's big flaw. She's like, I'm not as confident and cool as you think because I've always wanted to sing in a band, but I don't have the confidence or guts to do an audition. I also like how Beret woman there is watching the background. Like, she wants to be an employee at this store. Obviously, she has a thing for Joe, but... more mommy issues. Jeez, the girls here have had some difficult times with their mothers. Debs is absent, and I don't know exactly what the thing is with Gina's. So sweet, I'm thinking I'm going to barf. Yeah. Oh, no, we had to finish our weird... So now Mark's in the back, too. Okay, he switched out for the AJ, though. Joe has suddenly shown up, too. All right. Okay. Little bit... As well as I remember this movie, there's little bits I forget. So now... Once again, mother issues. Lucas's mom put him up for adoption because she couldn't handle him. Says for being a bad seed, he says. Yeah, so now we have the part where he talks about how Joe helped taking him in and turn his life around, etc. I like how as far as we know, he still never really explained what he did with the money or why he lost it. But maybe it happened off screen. Can't see mine. And you can see some of them, but those weren't the serious ones, right? Those were, I don't know. It takes really strong lighting, which obviously I'm not in. Tired of being invisible. Yeah. That's such a adolescent thing, but I mean, for some people, it never really goes away. I feel a lot more invisible in my late 30s than I did in my teens. Oh, Warren's back with a gun full of blanks. Man, we've had so many emotional breakdowns in the store today, and now we have one from a lunatic with a luckily unloaded gun. You can still really hurt somebody or even kill somebody with blanks, though. I don't know. So easy to get guns now. Good things have changed. No, wait. There, just my statement there. Jane. Okay, that's Beret woman. Jane. See, even when he's freaking out, Warren's kind of appealing because he's such an unstable weirdo. He just seems to really dislike... She's going to walk right into the gun. Have a little chat with my gun. This is it, finally. Pretty good. We're at the 1 hour and 1 hour and 12 minute thing, and finally somebody says the F word. My name isn't fucking Warren. But what's funny is we never do find out his real name. She mentions that God is female. She wants to use the gun. There's a song my favorite song on the soundtrack, although I don't remember what comes in because it's short, is Counting Blue Cars by Dishwalla, which in its day was actually somewhat controversial and had some people, silly religious people, picket against it because it referred to God with the pronoun she and her. Like, what the fuck? Who cares? I like how he's really upset about, he knows the Lucas thing. Like, he knows that Lucas took the $9,000, and he's really mad that Joe hasn't, pressed charges against him or anything like that. He's like, you had the audacity to call the cops on me when I stole from your store, but your own employee? I don't know. So another thing, is this all about you wanting a job? That's a good... At this point, Joe's like, sure, I'll give the gun-waving lunatic a job. That seems to be my lot in life, is employing unstable, emotional morons. So here you go, Warren. You're hired. They said he put blanks in the gun. There's not really a whole lot we can do to them. I mean, is that true? You can just terrorize people with a gun, a real gun, but since there's blanks in it, I mean, I get it because he's a juvenile, right? I guess that's some of the things. Oh, what's in the news lately? No, we're not going to talk about that, but fuck. Don't let the man get you down. So it's kind of a surprise that Warren came back. But it's like, well, surely he's gone for good this time. He's going to come back again, which is pretty funny. Cops can't even, like, the cops hold him. His parents pick him up. And they're like, what'd you do? You were shoplifting, and then you came back with a gun. And... oh, yeah, she did a Vespa. She sold it. Right. So now it's like, speaking of Christmas, now it's like It's a Wonderful Life, where everybody starts putting the money in to help cover Lucas. Although they don't have nearly enough. Here's a couple of bucks. I mean, it's more than you expect. It's over 3,000. They need 6 more just for the 9,000. But they need even more than that. Oh, the mask has finally slipped a little for Lucas, and that he's finally showing like some real emotion. What's that? You didn't know what you were doing when you just basically stole the money and drove to, I almost said Vegas, drove to Atlantic City with it? Takes a big person to admit when he's wrong. Lost my viewers. Mark's going to do the first useful thing he's not just ever done in the movie, but I think ever done in his entire life. He's going to hijack the newscast here. Oh, I love their old TV. That's so cool. See, I mean, while those TVs obviously are old even before like my time, the difference was like people that are my age, which isn't particularly old, even though stuff like that was old even for us when we were like kids, people didn't get rid of stuff as much. So, I mean, plenty of people my age and maybe even a little bit younger knew old TVs like that because people held on to stuff. So now they're going to have their big damn the man rave to save the store so that the evil music town doesn't take over. Oh, defacing company property. That's not good. It's also a pretty rough day because apparently their slogan is that they're open till midnight. So that's a long effing work day. I mean, some of them have come in at different times, but some of them are there all day and all night. Although I guess on a normal day, some of them will probably have left at night. I don't know. But this is not a normal day. Word travels fast because, like, the whole fucking town shows up. And there's Burko's band. Yeah, so he's educating the kid about vinyl. Which I don't know how hipster douchey that seemed in 95, but now it seems extremely... I collect vinyl, although I almost never do anymore because, like, that's why I don't go to the record store because, like, to get a good record, I have to drop at least, like, $30. And it's like, now I can't even play it. I have a record player, but I don't have speakers that go with it. So the only thing my records do is just take up space. So it's really silly to buy them. Most of my records are just old beat up things. But in the last few years, I bought, like, new versions of records, and they are not cheap. Oh, my God, they're expensive. Oh, here comes the asshole from corporate. Oh my God, Orc just messaged me. I can't talk about what it is. He will not rat out his employee. Where's my money, Joe? Couldn't find my drink. I like how he decided that on his own. Joe quits. The 90s were full of these guys too in movies. Some like asshole in a suit with a dumb haircut that comes in and represents like a corporation or something. And they're always like the villains of these movies. Like not too long ago, I watched, of course, in honor of the great Norm Macdonald, Dirty Work, right? Because in Dirty Work, what's his name, McDonald? He's like the corporate asshole in that one. He was also the villain in Happy Gilmore. He was Shooter McGavin. Similar character, just a golfer instead of a corporate guy. All right, so here's the big Sugar High song, which isn't bad. So here's my question. Now you're going to see, like, so Burko does most of the singing, but of course, eventually Gina's going to, I mean, she's up there dancing. I love how, like, is she only shy about singing? Because she's not shy about getting up there on a roof with a band and bouncing around and dancing. So is her only shyness and lack is singing? But anyway, my point, what I was going to say is, you're going to see, if you watch this, the way she performs. Here we go. Yeah. So she does the chorus. So as you can see, she's doing a lot with her hands and arms. And my question is that just the character, or is that Renee Zellweger? Like, is that, like, if you ask Renee Zellweger to sing a rock song, is that just what she does? Is that her instinct? Because it's bizarre. And I mean, it's fine. I mean, you got to do something to show energy. Oh, look at all these degenerates in my store. But yeah, I don't know. I shouldn't be so weirded out by it, but I just find it really weird. They're going to focus on it more because the whole thing is she's already overcome her shyness by dancing and singing, but it's going to be even more because eventually she's only doing the chorus. Oh, Warren's back. He does ask the good question. Does anybody actually work here? Warren, I do. That's a good joke. Sugar. Oh, AJ's doing something artistic. And of course, now we've come to an epiphany where she's going to realize that has the same feelings for AJ, blah, blah, blah. See, yeah, look at the way she's dancing. Like, is that the character, or is that just Renee Zellweger's own weirdness? It's not terrible, but it is kind of silly. Yeah, this is supposed to be like the fan remix of the movie. It seems exactly the same from any version I've ever watched. I don't notice anything different or extra. I hate this place, but I like money, so I'll leave you alone. Yeah, so he's going to sell the store, and they'll get to keep it as Empire. Come on now. He gave you what you wanted, Joe, even if he is an asshole. It's like, you go. You got to take it. She's like, no, I can't. I can only... As if there's a big difference between what she was singing in this part. Come on. There you go. There she goes. Like I don't know. I shouldn't focus so much on it, but it has always kind of weirded me out. The way she, like, waves her arms around. I would like to ask Renee Zellweger, is that just the character? Is that a quirk you gave the character, or is that just what you do if you, like, sing karaoke or something? Because to my knowledge, Renee Zellweger was never in a band. Yeah, Sugar High, hooray. Pizza di Papa. It's the pizza place across the street. Nice. Yeah, so it seems understood, and maybe I even talked to... back in the office. We're doing a little bookend here. But not entirely perfect? Because we still need some sort of romantic wrap-up. So here he is up on the roof, and she's going to confess her feelings for him, and that really annoying... Oh, she shoves him down. That was a big thing in the 90s, too. She's going to yell at him that she's so... Oh, you're so stupid, and I love you, and blah, blah, blah. You think you blew it? You think this guy has, like, beautiful women, like, just lining up for him? I mean, I get it. He's a good-looking guy, but come on. I did love you, but I thought it'd be better to lose my virginity to some dumb, random, shallow, middle-aged pop star. Because I don't know. I hate you and I love you and oh yeah, okay. I don't know if that's good acting or not. It's just, it's Liv Tyler and she's so cute that it works for somebody like me. Maybe if you're like, a gay male or a straight female, her charms don't work on you. So you're just like, that's just stupid. But me, I'm kind of smitten. I'm like, oh, that's just so adorable. So I couldn't tell you if that's actually well acted or not, but it worked for me because I'm just like, oh, so cute. And now, of course, they're all going to dance on the roof. And we get our song. Let's turn that up. Who cares? I used to hear this every frigging day. Hear it from you. I mean, I like it now, but when I heard it like every single morning on the way to school, I really didn't. Yay, kiss. They say jaded. And now we get our final shot of roof dancing. Lucas with Gina. Mark with Deborah. Now Warren with Gina. Because as we know, Gina doesn't have a lot of discretion. Oh, Eddie's here too. I don't like you, Eddie. I like everybody else. Oh yeah, and that's part of the credits too. Like they seem to think it was so good to add like an extra bit of Eddie and Mark talking, which is not very good, but yeah. I like how she's changed. I forget her name again, but the little sidekick with the beret. But she still has the beret. Oh, look, and all the girls are getting along. That's huge. I mean, as much as I like the movie, I'm glad it was just this. And maybe it's because of flop. No sequel. Hopefully there'll never be a show about it. Just leave it as it is. Maybe it's not entirely perfect, as he would say. But I think it's a beautiful little slice of the 90s. And maybe people of certain ages aren't going to like it, and I get that. But it hit at the right time for someone like me. But I know, see, it's going to jump to Jane. Jane is the name of Beret Woman. I don't know why she's third billed. It's Ethan Randall as Mark. Coyote, what's his name? Bandit, Mark's Daydream. Gwar! Yeah. So we have not faded to black. We're just pulling back helicopter shot in the city. They're pretty close to the water. I don't know if it's a river or a harbor or what. I don't remember where they're supposed to be or if it's ever stated. For some reason, I thought they were like in Maryland or something. I don't know. I could just be making that up. For a moment. But yeah, this is not it. They're going to do a little bit with like Mark and Eddie talking. And it's not good or funny. Oh, here we go. They're just blabbing out music. They're mentioning there's a Henry Rollins reference. Sort of a puss. If he hears you say that, he'll beat the shit out of you. Henry Rollins is not the type of guy you insult. I'm talking about, the Misfits. Mark says Primus is way better, man. So he's a little more new school. Primus is the new. There you go. Primus is the new stuff. So it's. Ooh, Eddie's not a fan of Primus. Ooh, comparing bass lines. That's how you know these guys are really into music. Well, I'm really glad they gave us this extra part of them arguing about bass lines and the Pixies, and that really was not worth including in the movie, but whatever. Get back to the Gin Blossoms. Oh, so many songs. You Killed the Radio Star. A whole bunch I didn't know. Ready, Steady, Go by the Mexies. I don't know, that Little Bastard by Ass Ponies. Thrown on My Side, performed by Quicksand. I don't know this. I don't know why. By Sacrilegious. Real by Real. If You Want Blood, You Got It. That's the AC/DC song. I didn't hear Counting Blue Cars in there, which is my favorite song. Dishwalla. Circle of Friends, Better Than Ezra. That was a band I never really knew back then. Dire Straits, Romeo and Juliet. I remember that. How. I think there's like 2 Cranberry songs in there. Girl Like You, Edwin Collins. Liar. Oh, yeah. Liar, also by the Cranberries. I knew there's more than one Cranberries in there. They were huge back then. Sadama Go-Go. McGuire song, of course. Tomorrow by Mouth Music. Plowed by Sponge. Sugar High. Yeah, that was his name. Coyote Shivers. So that's who Burko was. Coyote Shivers. This Is the Day. Performed by The. Free by the Martinis. I Shot the Devil. Suicidal Tendencies, who I mentioned. Sort of in passing. Sybil Vane. Flying Lizards. Well, of course, that's the Money song. Money, That's What I Want. Yeah, a lot of songs. I didn't even name them all. They're going by too quickly. But I named the ones I knew and some of the others. So yeah, I had a few different things this week. Movie Discussion Pocket Dimension didn't happen. I was going to do a couple things with some other people, and they had to cancel for various reasons. And I just felt like it'd been too long since I'd done anything, so I thought I should get on here. So I just wanted to pick out a movie that was light and easy and one that I like, that makes me happy, and doesn't bring up a bunch of feelings. So Empire Records was a good choice. So I'm glad. Thanks to anybody that joined me for it, and thanks to anybody that's watching this later in the future as we get towards 2022, which doesn't sound as unbelievable as it used to. So yeah, there's not much to say in summation. I just think that's a really fun movie. Definitely a cult movie. Did not perform well in its day, but it's come around. It found its audience. Every year on Twitter, they celebrate the Rex Manning Day, so it shows that there is an audience and people that enjoy the movie and remember it and still watch it. I can't recommend it as anything like amazing or anything like that, so that's weird. So this was the remix, special fan edition, and then there was the normal one. Huh. This was shorter? This says 91 minutes, and the other one says 107. So I just watched a shorter version? And yet it feels like that's the only version I've watched. I'll have to explore that. I don't feel like anything was cut out or missing. Why would a special fan remix cut stuff out? That's a little bit confusing. I'm going to have to try to watch the normal one and see if there was stuff that was cut out. I mean, I think of this as a movie that I know well. I don't remember anything being cut or even shortened. So I'm a little confused by that. I'll have to look into that, but I'll spare that here. We're not going to back to back. Let's watch it again. No, we're not going to do that. So I'll wrap up. As I said, thanks to anybody. I just wanted to get something out there, get something done. And also, it's always good. Whenever I'm hosting these things myself, I'm always kind of unsure about the quality of the connection. So I like to be able to watch them back. I mean, it doesn't look great in this lighting anyway, but I wasn't going to turn the lights on. I wanted to be comfortable. So anyway, that's going to do it. I don't know. I hope sometime. I think Jay said he's going to be out of town, so I'm not sure if we can do a movie discussion Pocket Dimension next week. But hopefully, I'll be able to do at least a couple other things. I had some things, like I said, planned with some other people. We'll see how that goes. But as far as like live commentaries go, most of the time I want to do them with people. The solo ones are usually something light and easy like this, or it's maybe something that's just really deeply personal or something that like I know that I can talk nonstop about. I have some really ambitious ones planned, but they might not be alone. It depends upon how some things fall, whether or not I do those by myself or with other people. I want to gauge other people's interest. I don't want to drag people in and make them do like a big commentary with me on something that they're not that interested in doing. So it'll come down to that, I guess. So we'll see how that goes. So thanks a lot, guys. Thank you very much for anybody that, again, was along and commented or anything, and anybody watching this in the future. So that'll do it. Peace out. I'll see you soon. Certainly before the new year. We're just going to do some more stuff in December, whether it's solo or with others. So hopefully I will see you then. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.